Hey, I'm Johnny Flynn, and Connecticut has so many problems. I just want to try to demonstrate to you what's happening in the mortgage foreclosure arena because we followed 70 foreclosures where there were no mortgages at all. But if you take a moment and listen, I'm going to implicate people in the court who actually steal the houses for themselves. And there's quite a few cases we can look at. There's another thing in the back of behind this, which I'll explain also, that has to do with patent technology, okay? So here, I'm going to take myself off the screen. I want to put what I believe is Daivid Chen on. So here's Daivid Chen, his picture. And I have a document in my hand that I can show you. And I can put it on the document reader if you like. But Daivid Chen works for the DA in Westchester County. And I have his picture. I could put the screen on. Here you go. I can show you this picture. And it describes what he does. He works at Blakely, Platt, and Schmidt. He was deputy county attorney. And he was U.S. district. He worked for the district judge. He's a volunteer, firefighter. And if you look at his profile, he has a couple of shell companies. He's what you call a straw buyer, okay? So Andrew Pritchard, who's a friend of mine, lost his house, his $3.5 million house in East Norwalk on the water. And he's a patent holder. He has the carbon credit patent. So when you hear about Germany owing money to Somalia because of their economies and their emissions, carbon emissions, this is a huge patent, folks. And I have a patent as well that I'm involved with for internet arbitration that I started in 1998. And Bernie Madoff wanted it, so they targeted me. So there are other patent holders in Connecticut that are targets. One has an e-commerce patent worth, billions. The carbon credit patent's probably worth $1 trillion, and mine's probably worth many hundreds of millions. I don't know. We'll see. We'll cross that road when we get there. It's not about the patents. What it's about is Daivid Chen right there. Daivid Chen worked at the Westchester County District Attorney, the state's attorney. And he was the straw buyer in the Pritchard house on the water, on the point in Norwalk. But what's interesting is this. Daivid Chen who got the house is and here's his iCapital company. Here's his other bpslaw.com. And here he was, Westchester County District Attorney, Daivid Chen. But when you look at the LinkedIn profiles of the people that are involved in the case, it turns out that Andres Bermudez Hallstrom, who just had me falsely arrested twice, had Andrew falsely arrested, and he was Assistant State's Attorney, Connecticut Division of Criminal Justice in Bridgeport. But, however, look at his history. He worked with Daivid Chen's office, it appears. So let me move this. Hold on, let me move this. Let's go down to Hallstrom. There he is. Let's go down to his profile and see what he's all about. Bar Association. let's see, Mamaroneck, Carnegie Mellon, Law Office, Mamaroneck, Deputy Assistant State's Attorney, Connecticut Division of Criminal Justice. Rocky Hill. And when you go back, he goes back to working for the same district attorney in White Plains. So when Sam Magliari got arrested 11 times, Mr. Andres Bermudez Hallstrom swindled 5 of the bonds with Judge McShane. So here's the Connecticut 5G lawsuit, where we're Flynn, Lindsay, Kelly, Coopersmith. Kelly's house was targeted. Kelly's being targeted by Darien. Lindsay is a rape victim whose house was stolen by the Ahuja brothers. The Ahuja brothers are claiming they bought various judges and state's attorneys and prosecutors and elected officials. But when you look here, what we're adding in the lawsuit, we're asking for our 9th grand jury to indict Daivid Chen, straw buyer who bought Andrew Pritchard's home. We're asking to arrest Ken Dixon at Hearst Media, along with Judge Kremrich, for conspiracy. What we're claiming here is that Kremrich is involved in the Barrier murder, where a $30 million bribe was paid. And it's quite interesting. I sued on behalf of myself when my tooth was knocked out, and the Barrier family. Stephen was murdered on 10/23/2019. A $30 million bribe was generated. We believe it came from Tong's office at the request of Richard Blumenthal, and it was cashed by Chief State's Attorney in Stamford, Richard Colangelo. So when you look at what happened here, Andrew was falsely arrested twice, myself twice, Sam Magliari 11 times. But when the Barrier murder was dismissed by Kremrich, I had already written a complaint against Kremrich, okay, that the state did not follow up on. And here it is in my hand. So let me put the document reader on. How about that? Let's put the document reader on, just so you get a glimpse of that. All these special effects, huh? Document reader on. Okay. And then close everything else. It makes it clearer. Here's my hand. Here's the document reader. Edward Kremrich in 2022. I have 60 of these outstanding. Scott Murphy has never responded. I've sent him numerous emails. And I filed a complaint against Edward Kremrich, who heard the Ken Dixon, Flynn versus Ken Dixon slander case, where Ken Dixon stole the Richard Blumenthal 2022 57,962 petitioning candidate signatures. So what's happening here is I'm being accused by Andre Bermudez Hallstrom, okay, the Bridgeport DA, that I am a conspiracy theorist, when in fact Kremrich, okay, and 6 other judges have had ex parte communications. I subpoenaed it through a federal trial. I sued Connecticut for election fraud. Turns out the votes are counted by Mossad, which is Seidel, owned by Paragon. And Seidel was purchased for $400 million prior to the 22 election. I filed an election fraud case. The DA says it's conspiracy theory. The DAs are working together to steal our homes. I had 2 homes stolen, not 1. What happened? I had 28 cashed mortgage checks stolen. Richard Colangelo has been investigating. 1,239 cash stolen checks of mine. We're missing quite a few stock positions, including Select Therapeutics, Regeneron, Virex, Alterex, Knight Pharmaceuticals, and one of the positions worth $37.5 million. So, as Bermudez steals brokerage firms and falsely arrests people, they're actually going after patents. They stole Andrew Pritchard's house. They want Sam Magliari's 3 houses. They already took a $3.5 million house of Heather Lindsay. And Heather Lindsay was the doctor who was working for the doctor who's claiming his brother Michael. A.J. Ahuja is claiming Michael Ahuja, his brother, bought the judges, all tied to Andre Bermudez and straw buyer Daivid Chen, who works for the White Plains District Attorney. So what they've done is they've stolen $50 million in securities, $50 million, a $1 trillion patent on carbon credits, the ashes of Andrew Pritchard's daughter. What they've stolen from me is my patent, my stock certificates. They cashed, 1,300 stolen checks through Judge Adams, who works for Kelly Dryan Warren. Kelly Dryan Warren is Bank America's attorney. Bank America bought Shawmut Bank. Bank America financed slavery in America. Bank America is Jim Himes' largest donor. I've been complaining to Jim Himes since 2009. I complained to Richard Blumenthal when he was chief state's attorney and U.S. Senator. And what's happened? Last month I had my People's Bank robbed, bank account. The prior month I had my Wells Fargo bank account robbed. I've had 15 bank accounts robbed, all because of Darien, Connecticut. Darien, Connecticut says I'm a domestic terrorist. Now, Andrew Pritchard was told he was a sovereign citizen domestic terrorist. So what's happening here is, as I'm running for election against Chris Murphy, who open border DHS Senate Subcommittee Chair, it turns out he used the Department of Motor Vehicles to falsify votes, count the votes electronically after they're tabulated, sent them through Seidel to foreigners, allowed Hutan Yagobita to buy LHS. Seidel is owned by Paragon, and now Biden is president because of Chris Murphy and Richard Blumenthal, who rigged the Blumenthal race in 2022 because my 57,962 signatures were stolen by Ken Dixon, who is protected by Judge Kremrich, who's working with these, 9 judges now involved in these matters. If we look on the screen, let's do that. Let's look at, for example, let me close the document reader. Let me go back up to the internet, and let me pull up, for example, Daivid Chen is a defendant in Andrew Pritchard's motion in his case where he was robbed, I can show you all these documents. We have tons of documents, folks. I'm hoping this loads. 9 Sylvester Court was stolen. And counterclaim of non-suit bank fraud, theft of property pursuant to the U.S. Constitution. This house was stolen. These are the cases. There's criminal cases. There's, right here, civil, 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 civil. Okay, Stanford Superior Court. There's also criminal cases. And this is what Andrew is suing for. Forgery in the first degree, forgery in the second degree, filing a false record, which would be the title of his home, notice of mortgage foreclosure. I mean, look at all this stuff. If we go to, these are Class D felonies, most of these things. Class C felony, identity theft, land conveyance. And now you can add multiple false arrests, misprision of felony, 18 U.S.C. 241, conspiracy against rights, that's huge, and 18 U.S.C. 242, deprivation of rights under the color of law. Here we go. Under the color of law, these DAs are stealing property and falsely arresting people to disparage their names, and the judges are buying it. Because I just went to court on the 25th with Judge Reed, and she called me crazy. Okay? She doesn't know me. She hasn't read the 5G complaint. The 5G complaint accuses Connecticut of Wi-Fi radiation 6 million times the legal limit in Hamden, Connecticut, 2.9 million times in Seymour, Connecticut. I'm saying you can measure radiation and that it is 6 million times the legal limit. And the state has known for a year and a half, and those people are being radiated. So when I say, hey, there's election fraud in Connecticut, yeah, I gave them 57,000 signatures, 57,962 signatures. Ken Dixon stole them at Hearst Media. They wrote a smear campaign. If you Google my name, the only thing that comes up is Ken Dixon's smear campaign. I wasn't put on the ballot. I got votes, many, and none of them counted. I got 0 in the tally. So what they did was they took the votes of Andrew Pritchard, Heather Lindsay, John Flynn. All of us voted for me. We took pictures of our ballots. They were scanned into a tabulator. They went to Barcelona, Spain, and when it came back, they were zeroed out. That is destruction of evidence. That is destruction of the cast vote record and the memory cards. The memory cards are destroyed, and the cast vote record is destroyed. So we are going to, A, prove voter fraud, since my votes were never counted. They said I have 0, and I have them on my phone. So what happened? I went to court with my phone. They stole 8 phones of mine. It is illegal to steal a phone from anyone in the court. You're not allowed to have it on, and they weren't on. None of my phones were on. They were in a bag. I was tackled. I was injured. I was pile-drived on my head. I was assaulted. It was false arrest. The judge claimed I resisted. I never resisted. Got my face broken, okay? So the judge thinks I'm crazy while there are 6,000 fraudulent bankruptcies I've witnessed. Part of the 5G case in Connecticut is staggering. Let me tell you what it is. Corey Coopersmith was a sniper rifle manufacturer. His patents were stolen, just like Andrew's patent, just like my patent. They were stolen. What happened next? They took his house. They took my house. They took Corey's house. Corey's house was $30 million. Corey owned 288 acres in Martha's Vineyard. They put him in a coma. His sniper rifles were stolen and sold to the Libyan army. That evidence is on my phone that Andre Bermudez Hallstrom stole. Okay? They stole the evidence in the Connecticut 5G lawsuit, and that's tampering with a witness. Andrew doesn't want to testify anymore. Why? Because he's been threatened, his sons have been threatened, his sons have been beaten up. Okay? They robbed him, they took his property, they robbed me, they took my property, they beat me up. And who did it? The district attorney of Bridgeport, the district attorney of Stamford. Now, Colangelo is singing like a bird in jail. Singing like a bird in jail. Took a bribe in the Barrier murder. Going to jail. Read the public document, FST CV 20 502 3122-S. And what does it say? It says that Judge Kremrich dismissed a murder case, and we have the snuff video. They said no tasers were used. Well, the person who was murdered on his 23rd birthday is screaming, "Taser, taser, taser. I got him in the back." 6 cops killed him at 1:30 in the morning. 21 came back at 5:30 a.m. 4 hours later and staged the body cam evidence, and a bribe was paid to shut them up, to stop BLM from marching in Stamford. A bribe was paid to cover up a murder by the chief state's attorney, and everybody knows about it because it's in the document. And Judge Kremrich ruled against me when he had a conflict of interest. I had a complaint against him. I asked him to recuse himself. So what I'm going to do is ask Judge Reed to recuse herself. Why? Due to bias, protecting Andre Bermudez Hallstrom, who's been lying, for straw buyer Daivid Chen, who stole a $3.5 million house for a penny. Andrew Pritchard received no money. I received no money for my multiple houses. What they do to me? They hired a hitman with an axe. They sent me to my office where he was waiting for me with the axe. I fought him for 2.5 hours. The police never showed, though I called them 31 times on 911. We went to 3 trials, and they did not allow me to play the 911 calls. Judge Pervater, Judge Heller, and Judge Jacobs. Murder for hire. Okay? They tried to kill me, and these guys are in on it. Stealing properties. The DA is a criminal enterprise in Fairfield County. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. The other plaintiff, Heather Lindsay, she's having her second house stolen. They raped her. She was a doctor's nurse. The doctor illegally prescribed oxy and murdered his own wife and son. And his brother, Michael Ahuja, got caught bribing cops from Texas to Connecticut with $18 million in cash in his trunk. That is State versus Ahuja. Now, if you look at State versus Riddle, the confidential informant they've been going to for murder for hire was hired by a dirty cop to kill a clean cop named Lamb. Then he was hired by another dirty cop to kill a clean cop named Dealey. Then the U.S. attorney and the state's attorney sprung them again to kill me. And I'm running for U.S. Senate. So I really don't have a problem telling the truth, and I don't need to remember anything other than the truth. But I'll tell you this right now. I'm being threatened by 4 police departments: East Haven, Norwalk, Stamford, and Wilton. All 4. And we're going to round them up. Am I working with the feds? Pretty much. They watch my videos, and I'm telling you right now, Daivid Chen stole a $3.5 million home without a mortgage, paid nothing to a plaintiff in the Connecticut 5G lawsuit, and all the plaintiffs are being threatened at gunpoint. Not just me, not just Chris Kelly, not just Heather Lindsay, all, okay? Now, Corey Cooper-Smith's attorney, Andre Cayo, is saying he's being threatened. He won't know where the bullet's coming from, and that he's worried. He doesn't want to go forward with the case. So now we have multiple people dropping out as plaintiffs, multiple, thinking that it's too risky because they are threatening witnesses, stealing evidence, tampering with evidence, and the motive is to steal properties. They've stolen houses from just about every plaintiff in the case. Who are they targeting next? I know who. As time goes by, the feds better do something soon. Have a great day. So that's a reveal about the DA of White Plains working with the DA of Bridgeport, Connecticut. Oh, and let me not forget, Tomaccio did it in Stamford. Nemec did it. Forensic is in on it. Who are the other DAs? Oh, Richard Colangelo. He was chief state's attorney. He is singing like a bird. He must be in prison because he was fired by the governor. And there's more. Let's see what happens this week, because we need to be fixed, and we need our subpoenas answered. And if they're not, I'm pretty damn sure they're going to round these people up and put them in a federal prison, and I'll be very happy when that occurs. Thanks again. Talk to you soon. Very important, because there are over 500 people who have contacted me that they are losing their houses for one reason or another. EMAP fraud, title fraud, all types of fraud. And it is McCalla Raymer, it is Judah Epstein's companies. There are judges, Spader involved. There are Cazenovia Creek, MTAG. And guess what? The judges own the mortgage mills. The judges own the mortgage mills and the drive-by fee and the marshals, state marshals, Foldy, Greenwich. Greenwich is going to be involved very soon, folks. There are multiple houses that have been stolen in Greenwich. I have a whole file on it. So, thanks again.